After hearing a poor girl's heart-wrenching plea, Millionaire's incredible life transformation is unbelievable. Jake Mitchell leaned against the window of his sprawling suburban mansion, gazing at the perfectly manicured lawns and the luxury cars gliding past. To the world, he was a shining success, a self-made millionaire in his 30s who ran a booming tech company. But inside him, a void echoed louder than the engine of his expensive sports car, a gnawing emptiness that no yacht or gala could fill as the weekend approached. He polished his golf clubs, preparing for yet another charity gala. This was his life. The same faces, the same conversations about stock markets and startup trends. He felt a world away from the struggles that haunted so many. It was not until his well-meaning but out-of-touch assistant suggested volunteering at a local community center that everything changed. Sitting across from Maria in the cramped meeting room, something awful yet beautiful happened. Her eyes shone with determination, yet the weight of her burdens painted a stark contrast. "I don't know how I'm going to buy school supplies for my daughter," she said, her voice wavering with fight and fear. "I just want her to have a chance, a shot at something better." Jake's heart tightened. Her raw emotion cut through his privilege like a knife. For the first time, he faced the uncomfortable truth of his existence. He was trapped in a bubble, cocooned in a reality that allowed him to ignore the economic injustice seeping through the cracks of his pristine neighborhood. That he initially disregarded her plea, attributing her plight to a lack of ambition. Yet, as the days passed, her voice haunted him. Guilt gnawed at his conscience, mingling with the unease of his reflections. He began to reach out, to pull at the strings of his connections, seeking help for Maria's daughter. But the tight grip of his affluent friends held him back, their whispers cutting deep. "Why waste resources on them?" they'd say, their words chilling him to the bone. Despite their judgment, Jake pressed on, feeling the weight of frustration grow. Each encounter with Maria opened a window into a different world, a world filled with potential, yet stunted by harsh realities. Then, disaster struck. A fire ripped through a part of the community, leaving devastation in its wake. The community center, once a haven of hope, stood in ashes as Jake stood there, watching despair flicker in the eyes of those around him. The realization hit hard. Should he retreat to his safe, privileged life, or push through the chaos to help the very people he had once overlooked? It wasn't about reputation anymore. It was about humanity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when the weight of uncertainty threatened to bury him, Maria reached out. She asked for his help in organizing a town hall meeting, an opportunity to bring voices together, a chance to spark change. As he read her message, Jake felt his heart race. This could be the moment of his transformation, a chance to step into the mess and chaos of life outside his carefully curated world. Would he seize it? The road ahead shimmered with uncertainty and possibility, leaving him on the precipice of a life-altering choice. Jake sat at his desk, staring at his phone. The message from Maria glowed brightly, a beacon of clarity amid his whirlwind of thoughts. He felt paralyzed, caught between the comfort of his wealth and the raw energy of necessity that pulsated around him. The lavish parties, the tailored suits, these had once defined him, but now they felt burdensome, suffocating even. A lump formed in his throat as he recalled the tears in Maria's eyes. They were not there to plead for charity. They were there, raw and human, seeking a lifeline. The thought of organizing the town hall meeting stirred a sense of urgency in him. Jake could finally break free of the shadows that his affluent lifestyle cast over his life. It was time to step outside the bubble. But the anxiety of doing something tangible felt weighty, twisting his stomach. He was a businessman, not a community leader. What could he possibly say that would resonate? Yet the fear of failure paled in comparison to the dread of remaining stagnant. He quickly typed a response, agreeing to meet Maria to discuss the details. The moment he hit send, a wave of relief washed over him. He was ready. No more delaying his involvement. It was time to act. The following evening, Jake arrived at the community center, now surrounded by yellow tape and the smell of smoke. His heart sank further as he saw the charred remains of the places filled with laughter, hope, and dreams. The impact of this event was palpable. It lingered in the air like a heavy fog. Maria greeted him at the entrance, her eyes still heavy with the weight of recent events. But there was also a flicker of determination within her. "Thank you for coming so quickly," she said, her voice steady but low. "Maria, I'm here to help however I can," Jake replied, feeling the sincerity of his words echo back to him. They walked through the rubble, mapping out the plan for the town hall. Ideas flowed between them, fueled by the desperation for change. They brainstormed how to unite the community, not just to rebuild, but to empower. Each suggestion morphed into more profound aspirations. Jake found himself wrapped up in their conversations, his previous doubts slipping away. The prospect of igniting enthusiasm, of being a part of something bigger, lit a fire inside him as they continued planning. He realized he was finally letting go of the empty glamour that had suffocated him for so long. His heart raced with a familiar thrill, but it was different this time, grounded in purpose. Would he truly be able to make a difference here? Later that week, when the town hall meeting finally arrived, the small gym overflowed with eager faces and broken hearts. Jake paced nervously behind the podium, sensing the heavy silence pressing down on him. Maria stood to the side, a smile of encouragement stretching across her lips. Jake drew a deep breath, his thoughts shifting to the struggles faced by those in the room. With every beat of his heart, he felt the weight of their stories wrapping around his own life, intertwining with a powerful sense of responsibility. Tonight, he began, "We're not only rebuilding a building, we're rebuilding hope." As he spoke, the atmosphere transformed. The weight they had all carried began to lift, just a little. People leaned in. Those once dulled by despair now sparkled with anticipation. And Jake knew he'd taken the first step down a path of no return. But as he locked eyes with Maria, something tugged at his heart. Was this merely the beginning of facing the many layers of his own life that still needed untangling? In the aftermath of that hopeful night, Jake found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. This might just be the start of exposing the truth within himself, one that would bring unexpected consequences. What was waiting for him just beyond this fragile beginning? Jake paced back and forth in his bedroom as dawn crept through the curtains, a soft light illuminating the chaos of his thoughts. The town hall meeting replayed in his mind, the faces of the townsfolk etched in his memory. He felt a spark in that gym, a sense of belonging that he hadn't experienced in years. The echoes of their applause still rang in his ears, cheering him on, but they also whispered doubts. Could he keep this momentum alive? He grabbed his phone, heart racing as he reread Maria's message again. She had suggested a follow-up meeting to discuss actionable plans, and he felt both excited and anxious. Could he really help? The desire to be part of something genuine was stronger than any reason to retreat into his old life of luxury. The day felt long as he awaited their meeting, each passing moment adding pressure to his anticipation. When he finally arrived at the community center, the sight of those familiar faces, worn yet resolute, reignited his determination. Maria was already there, poring over notes and sketching ideas on a whiteboard. "Jake," she called, looking up from the page with a bright smile. "Hey," he replied, feeling warmth spread in response to her enthusiasm. "What do you think? Can we really pull this off?" "Absolutely. But we need to define our roles." She pointed to the board filled with sticky notes. "We've got volunteers ready to step up, but we need a leader, a visionary." His heart skipped a beat. "You think that could be me? Why not? You brought people together last week. You sparked hope. We need that energy," she encouraged, her belief in him contagious. Jake took a deep breath. "Okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to tie my business experience into it. Let's create something organized, an actual plan." As they brainstormed, ideas flowed like never before. They sketched out community projects, fundraising events, and even workshops to empower locals with skills. The excitement in the room grew, and he could see the flickers of hope reigniting in the others who had gathered around. "Tell me more about your vision for this community," Jake asked Maria, genuinely curious. Maria paused, her eyes shining with passion as she spoke. "I just want to see everyone have the chance to thrive. It's not just about rebuilding what was lost. It's about creating something better." Her words struck a chord in him. He began to imagine what community-focused plans could look like beyond the broken structures of food drive, a local artist showcase, a mentorship program for kids. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, breaking the moment. He glanced down to see a message from his business partner, reminding him of an important meeting ahead, centered on profits and mergers. The contrast hit him hard, and he felt an old flash of resentment rise in his chest. Why had he spent so much time chasing after money when people like Maria needed change? "Are you okay?" Maria's voice cut through his thoughts, her brow furrowed with concern. "I need to make a decision," he said slowly, weighing the options before him. "There's a part of me that wonders if I can really walk away from my old life." She reached out, locking eyes with him. "You can, Jake. You just have to choose what you want to stand for." The enormity of her words settled in his heart, and he felt a shift occurring within him. "All right, I choose this. I want to help. I want to be part of this community." As their plans crystallized, a sense of clarity washed over him. He was ready to face the challenges ahead, but there was still an unsettling question lingering at the back of his mind. What sacrifices would he have to make to truly embrace this new identity? With Maria by his side, Jake took a leap of faith into the unknown, unaware of the personal transformation that awaited him. But as he stepped into this new chapter, he couldn't shake the feeling that more trials were just around the corner. Jake stood in front of the whiteboard, markers in hand, feeling a rush of energy as he brainstormed with Maria and the small group. The ideas flowed freely. They sketched out scenarios, timelines, and action items. But amid this creative flow, doubt still nagged at the back of his mind. What if they failed? As they discussed a potential food drive, Maria looked around the room. "We have to make sure we reach as many families as possible. The need is great right now," she said, her eyes scanning the group for agreement. They all nod in earnest. "I could use my contacts to secure donations," Jake finally suggested, a hint of confidence creeping into his voice. It felt good to contribute, to know he could leverage his past to help move forward. "That's perfect." Maria beamed. "Let us get the ball rolling on that. Every bit helps." But as the meeting progressed, Jake found himself lost in thought again. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was out of his depth, that he was still just a businessman playing at community service. As people shared their ideas, he kept envisioning the meeting he was supposed to attend, the one focused on profits. "Hey, what is going on in that head of yours?" Maria's gentle prodding pulled him back from his reverie. "Just thinking about my life before this and how disconnected it feels now," Jake admitted. Maria softened her gaze. "We're all just trying to connect, to make this place better. You're not alone in this." The authenticity in her words struck him hard. He realized then that he had been searching for connection his whole life but had clouded it with ambition and success. Now, here was an opportunity for genuine impact, and he was ready to embrace it, even with the sacrifices ahead of him. As the planning session wrapped up, the group joyfully exchanged contact info, sparking conversations about next steps. An idea took root in Jake's mind: a mentorship program for local kids, something beyond what they had just discussed. "What if we start a youth program? Teach them skills and encourage creativity? We could build something amazing," he proposed, his voice gaining strength. The room buzzed with energy as excited chatter filled the space. Maria turned to him, eyes alight with inspiration. "That's fantastic, Jake. Let us get right on it." They spent hours drafting flyers and discussing outreach strategies. Suddenly, a young girl entered the room, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Jake turned to her, curious. My mom said I could come," she stammered, clutching a small, tattered notebook to her chest. "What's your name?" Maria asked, kneeling down to meet the girl's gaze. "Emily," she whispered. "What brings you here, Emily?" Jake asked, heart aching at the sight of her timid demeanor. I want to help," she replied softly, There's a lot of kids who don't have food. And I'm scared they want to eat. Can you help them? Jake felt a lump rise in his throat. Her simple plea, filled with care and concern, was everything he wanted to be, everything he wanted to create within this community. Of course we can. He responded with surprising fervor. We're working on a food drive, and we love your help. Emily's face lit up, hope replacing her fear. She stepped forward, her small frame full of determination. As the excitement settled in the room, Jake watched her confidence grow, the promise of a brighter future reflecting on her face. He realized that this was bigger than him. It was about these moments, the laughter, the tears, the connections made. But as night fell and the room emptied, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. Would he really be able to deliver on the promises made to Emily, to the community? With a careful gaze at the empty whiteboard, Jake reminded himself he was no longer just chasing profits. He was building a life filled with purpose and connection. And with that, he whispered to himself, I won't let you down, Emily. But as he left the community center that night, an unfamiliar sense of dread fluttered in his stomach, reminding him that challenges awaited him just around the bend. Jake stepped outside, the cool night air hitting him like a splash of cold water. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows on the pavement. His mind raced with thoughts of Emily and the responsibility he'd just taken on. He couldn't shake the weight of her words. She was just a little girl, yet she carried a hope that felt almost too big for her small frame. He walked to his car, still buzzing with adrenaline from the meeting but now mixed with a gnawing anxiety about what lay ahead. Could he really make a difference? The doubts returned, creeping in like a thick fog. He started the engine, letting the warmth of the car engulf him, but his heart was in turmoil. The drive home felt longer than usual. He thought about all the kids in the community who were going without. Emily's voice echoed in his ears, pleading for help, and suddenly he felt the weight of every choice he'd ever made. His days spent in board meetings and talking numbers tainted his past, leaving him with this strange sense of emptiness. Was the pursuit of profit worth sacrificing the very connections that gave life meaning? When he finally arrived at his apartment, he paused. He didn't want to return to the solitude he had grown so fond of, the silence that had become a refuge. Instead, he rummaged through his phone, thinking about the contacts he could reach out to for the food drive. He had connections, yes, but now they meant something different. He started sending messages, reaching out to local businesses he had worked with in the past. As he typed, each word felt like an answer to Emily's prayers. I'm starting a food drive to help kids in our community. Can you help? He hit send and felt a spark of aliveness coursing through him. Sleep eluded him that night. Images of smiling children and empty plates danced behind his eyelids. Each vision fueled his determination but also brought a fear he couldn't ignore. What if no one came through? What if he was simply spinning his wheels while kids went hungry? Early the next morning, Jake found himself back at the community center. The small space felt alive, brightened by the sun filtering through the windows. He was greeted by Maria, who was busy arranging chairs and unpacking boxes of supplies. Jake, I'm so glad you're here, she said, her energy infectious. I talked to the local grocery store owner last night. He's on board to donate. That's amazing, he replied, excitement bubbling inside him. I reached out to a few others too. We might actually pull this off. But just as hope filled the air, a sense of urgency spread through the room like wildfire. They had a short timeline to gather the necessary supplies and reach the families in need. Emily arrived, her notebook still clutched to her chest. She looked around, her eyes wide with anticipation. Is it time to start? She asked, enthusiasm pouring from her. Yes, Emily, and I'm so glad you're here. We need all the help we can get, Jake said, kneeling down to her level. Are you ready to share your ideas? Her cheeks flushed with excitement, and she nodded vigorously. As the day unfolded, the trio of adults and this brave little girl began laying the groundwork for their mission. But as they discussed plans and strategies, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against the clock. They needed more than just donations. What if people's trust in them faltered? The stakes felt impossibly high now. In the midst of planning, Maria's phone pinged. She glanced at it, her brow furrowing. Oh no, it's about the outreach program. There are rumors that a new policy is being proposed that could hinder our efforts. We might have to change our approach completely. Jake's stomach twisted. What did this mean for them and their vision? The unexpected challenges had just begun to reveal themselves, and Jake could feel the pressure mounting. He had a choice to make. Would he rise to the occasion or fall back into his old habits? As the sun began to set, casting shadows across the community center's walls, Jake looked at Emily. Her bright eyes were filled with hope and determination. The moment struck him hard. He needed to be more than just a businessman. He needed to be a leader. And that started now. But what would it take to truly turn things around? Jake's heart raced as he processed Maria's words. Rumors of new policies swirling around the outreach program felt like a storm threatening to undo everything they were trying to build. The optimism in the room felt brittle, on the verge of shattering. He had to act and fast. All right, he said, gathering everyone's attention. Let us focus on what we can control. We need to tap into community support. If local businesses can back us, it will create a ripple effect, a show of solidarity. We can spread the word on social media too. Emily chimed in, her small voice cutting through the tension. Kids love seeing things online. We could even make a video. Jake smiled at her enthusiasm. Great idea, Emily. Let us brainstorm some catchy slogans. We need to grab people's attention and make them feel this is their fight too. Together, they spent the next few hours brainstorming ideas. Jake's whiteboard was soon filled with words and phrases, a colorful explosion of hope. Emily led the charge, bouncing ideas off Maria and Jake, her energy contagious. Fill their plates, fill their hearts, she shouted, her face glowing with excitement. Jake felt a newfound determination swell within him. Unbeknownst to him, the seeds of change were taking root inside him as well. But even as laughter filled the room, the shadow of uncertainty loomed. Maria's phone buzzed again. The tension wasn't easing. It was growing tighter. We have to move on this, Jake stated, his voice steady. Let us create flyers and start distributing them today. The sooner we get this out, the better. We'll hold a kickoff event to launch our food drive. Count me in, Emily exclaimed, her resolve shining through. Suddenly, she had everyone's support ignited by her sheer will. As the day moved forward, they designed their outreach materials. The community center transformed into a hive of activity. Laughter mingled with the sounds of printers whirring and paper rustling. Jake's heart raced with purpose, each printout feeling like a step closer to making a difference. Once they had their materials ready, they hit the streets. Jake took to social media, posting updates and inviting families to join their cause. Each notification of a new like or share felt like a small victory, fueling his drive. Later, they met at a local park to hand out flyers. People stopped, intrigued by the bright colors and Emily's bright smile. We're doing a food drive to help kids in our community, she explained passionately. We need your help. But not everyone was warm and welcoming. A man approached, skepticism etched into his features. Are you actually going to make a difference or just run in circles? He challenged, crossing his arms. Jake felt heat rising in him. The doubts he had buried rushed back. We're trying our best, he said, searching for the right words. I know it's hard to believe, but every bit of help counts. Emily stepped forward boldly. We're bringing back the hope. Her voice was unwavering. Jake marveled at her bravery. The man's expression softened just a fraction. Hope, huh? We'll see if you can deliver. As they continued their outreach, more people joined, inspired by Emily's voice. Hearts opened, doors began to crack ajar. But Jake couldn't shake the gnawing feeling they were on borrowed time. That evening, as they returned to the community center, the weight of the day settled on Jake's shoulders. He had sparked a movement, but would it be enough? Tonight is just the beginning, Jake told Emily, who was still bursting with energy, eyes alight with ideas. She believed in him and the mission. But what if the world wasn't ready to embrace that hope yet? As he looked at her, he knew he had to keep pushing forward, no matter what. The road ahead felt daunting, but a quiet strength grew within him. Tomorrow, they would find a way to rally more support. Because now, for the first time in a long time, Jake was ready to fight not just for Emily's hope, but for every child who needed him to believe. What other challenges awaited them on this uncertain path ahead? The sun broke through the clouds the next morning, casting a warm glow over the community center. Jake arrived early, determination solidifying within him like the morning light. Today was pivotal. They would not only launch their campaign but also solidify their message of hope. Emily was already there, bouncing on her toes like a coiled spring. "Jake, I came up with a tagline for the video," she exclaimed, her eyes bright. "We'll call it Share a Plate, Share a Heart." "Perfect," he replied, thrilled by her energy. It reminded him of how a single spark could light up a whole room. They set to work, preparing the backdrop and setting the camera. Not far behind, Maria brought in supplies and encouraged everyone to gather. As the camera rolled, Emily stood in front, full of spirit. "Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. We're here today to launch our food drive. Together, we can fill plates for kids in our community who need help. Everyone deserves a meal." Her heartfelt message reached into the crowd, drawing in curious neighbors. Some stepped closer, their faces a mixture of skepticism and hope. Jake watched, feeling the room pulse with a newfound possibility. But even as they filmed, Jake's mind drifted to the doubts that crept in. Would this be just a fleeting moment of inspiration? Would it have the impact they needed? He shook the doubts off, pushing himself into the present. Later in the afternoon, they prepared for their kickoff event. Excitement buzzed in the air as people offered their support. Local businesses provided snacks and drinks, and a small band agreed to play in the park. But just as they seemed to gain momentum, Jake noticed a group of local politicians arriving, expressions carefully neutral. Here to help or to scrutinize? He wondered. As they approached, Jake felt his pulse quicken again. He took a deep breath before stepping forward. "Welcome," he greeted, projecting confidence he didn't entirely feel. "We're launching a food drive aimed at helping kids in our community." He motioned to the setup around them, hoping to convey their mission's importance. One of the politicians, a woman with sharp features and a frown, raised an eyebrow. "And what measurable impact do you expect to achieve?" Jake's stomach twisted. "We plan to collect food and support local families through various partnerships. It's about rallying the community." The woman nodded slowly, seemingly unconvinced. "Prove to me that you can make a difference, and we might consider supporting you." The challenge hung heavy in the air, wrapping around Jake like a thick fog, but he realized this was exactly the moment he needed to seize. He couldn't back down now, not with so much at stake. Taking a step closer, he spoke with renewed passion. "We're not just asking for support, we're building a movement. Every meal we share is more than food. It's hope, love, and a chance for every kid in our community." Suddenly, he felt Emily next to him, her small hand gripping his. "We believe in this. We're ready to work, to make things change for those who need us." A murmur passed through the group, faces softening as they contemplated what had been said. Jake could feel a shift happening. Maybe, just maybe, the seeds of change were sprouting. By the time their kickoff event began, laughter and music filled the park. Families gathered, and little by little, skepticism faded. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in vibrant hues, Emily beamed at Jake. "Look, they love it. We're making a difference, step by step." Jake met her gaze, feeling a mix of elation and trepidation. They were igniting hope, but in the back of his mind, he wondered, what would happen if they couldn't meet expectations? What other hurdles were just waiting to appear? Just then, a soft voice cut through the chatter. A girl, no older than 10, stepped forward, her eyes wide and filled with unspoken fears. "Is it really true? Can you help kids like me? I haven't had dinner in days." Jake's breath caught in his throat. Her words pierced through the excitement, laying bare the reality they were fighting against. Now, more than ever, he knew they could not falter. What would he say to the girl? How could he ensure they could reach her and kids like her, before it was too late. Jake knelt down, bringing himself eye level with the girl, whose name tag read Lila. He searched her eyes, struggling to find the words that could bridge the gap between hope and reality. He could feel the warm glow of the sun fading behind the trees, but he couldn't let that dim the light of possibility in Lila's gaze. Lila, he began gently, I promise you we can help. This food drive is about making sure kids like you have dinners every night. His heart raced, feeling the weight of her gaze. He wanted to believe in every word he said. Emily stepped closer, her voice softening. It starts with us, and it starts today. You're not alone. Behind them, murmurs from the crowd swirled. Some people nodding, their faces reflecting the determination Jake felt growing within him. He wanted them to all feel it, the connection, the shared responsibility. Every little bit we collect goes to families who need it most, Jake continued, glancing around at the faces of neighbors now drawn into their cause, some with young children, others older and weathered. We can't fix everything all at once, but together we can make a difference, one meal at a time. Lila hesitated, her brow furrowing as she seemed to process his words. But will it be enough? She asked softly, hope flickering like the flames of a candle struggling against the wind. Jake faltered for a moment, self-doubt creeping back in. He thought of the politicians, their sharp gazes, and their expectations. What if they failed? Would Lila and others like her be left starving? Taking a deep breath, he wrapped an arm around her small shoulders. Lila, we're gonna fight for you. I promise we'll do everything we can. Together, we can build a community that watches out for each other. That's how it works. Their conversation caught the attention of several adults standing nearby, their expressions softening as they listened in. A volunteer stepped forward, a woman with kind eyes. Lila, would you like to help us? She knelt as well, mirroring Jake's stance. You could be our special helper today. Would you like that? Lila's eyes sparked with curiosity, and for a brief moment, the fear that had lingered in her gaze faded. Yes, I can help. As the tension lifted, laughter bubbled up from the crowd when Emily suggested a game to help gather food donations, food treasure hunt. Jake watched as kids began to giggle, scattering in small groups to collect non-perishable items. It was like a wave of joy washing over them, turning the atmosphere electric. Hope swelled in Jake's chest as he joined in, passing out labels and stickers for the donations. He felt lighter, perhaps the first taste of real success. But with every kid's laughter ringing out, a nagging thought still tugged at him. What if the donations weren't enough? After all their hard work, after the way they'd uncovered the community's soul, what if this movement didn't hold? As if reading his mind, Emily called out, Hey, Jake, look at this. She held above her head a box nearly overflowing with canned goods. Neighbors had begun clearing their pantries, searching for anything that could help others. In that moment, Jake felt something shift again inside him, a flicker of belief igniting. Maybe they could do it. Maybe Lila and kids like her could eat tomorrow night and the night after that. Maybe they wouldn't just make a difference. They'd transform lives, but just as jumbled thoughts began to settle, he felt a ripple of anxiety as the politician with the skeptical look appeared again, looming at the edge of the gathering. She observed, arms crossed, a straight line cutting across her mouth. Did she think this was all just a show, that their efforts could fizzle out? Jake knew he had to act. He wiped his palms on his jeans, squaring his shoulders to face her, ready to defend their mission, but would it be enough to convince her? The question hovered in the air. Would they just be another fleeting moment in the community's memory? Or could they truly ignite a lasting change? He took a deep breath, feeling Lila's small fingers brush against his arm, grounding him. Let us show her, he whispered softly to Emily. But just then, a much louder voice from the crowd rang out, drawing everyone's attention. A familiar face, someone who owned one of the local restaurants, stepped forward with a surprising declaration. I challenge my fellow business owners to match our contributions. What more would this rallying cry ignite? The crowd was momentarily stunned into silence. The owner of the restaurant, a jovial man known for his hearty meals and generous spirit, stood taller, his eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. Let us make this a real contest. I'll match every can you bring in with a cash donation. Cheers erupted from the crowd, filling the air with renewed energy. Jake's heart raced, the excitement palpable. Families began to exchange glances, some already plotting their strategies. Children sprinted back to their homes, eager to bring back any food they could find. Lila, bouncing on her toes, looked to Jake with wide eyes, her excitement infectious. "Did you hear that? It's like a treasure hunt but with real treasure," she squealed, wringing her hands together. "Yes, this is exactly what we needed," Jake replied, beaming at her. Glancing over the crowd, he felt the pulse of community shift again, a wave of unified purpose. As the donations started to pour in, people began shouting out what they could contribute. "I can bring 5 boxes," a man shouted, his voice booming above the chatter. A woman chimed in, "And I'll donate $100. Emily grabbed Jake's arm, her eyes sparkling. "Look at them. We're really doing something good here." Jake nodded, his smile widening. But deep inside, an echo of worry lingered. Could this be sustained? The fire of passion shared among the crowd was impressive, but what happened when the sun set and the reality of their situation dimmed? The politician, still standing back with a skeptical gaze, remained a looming figure in the shadows. Jake felt a mix of dread and motivation. This was bigger than any one of them. It was about setting an example, a challenge to themselves to become more than just spectators in their world. Suddenly, a young girl rushed up to Jake, dragging her older brother behind her. "We found a whole box of pasta in our pantry. Can that help?" "Absolutely. That will help so many families," Jake said, kneeling down again to meet her earnest expression. The pride in her eyes lit a fire in his chest. In that moment, Lila joined them, clutching a crumpled dollar bill. "I want to give this. It's all I have." "Lila, that is so generous. You don't have to give your money," Jake reassured her, but Lila just shook her head. "I want to help too," she insisted, determination etched on her face. The warmth of her resolve wrapped around him like a blanket. "Okay, every little bit counts," he said with a nod, wishing he could shield her from the world's harsh realities. Yet knowing she had the strength to face them. Fueled by inspiration, Jake turned back toward the crowd. "Everyone, let us keep this momentum going. Every act of kindness, big or small, matters. Let's show not just ourselves, but the whole town what we can do together." As they rallied again, the energy transformed into a thunderous cheer, voices rising into the twilight. But before Jake could truly lose himself in the moment, a frantic shout pierced the air. "Wait, there's been an accident at the corner store." A mother rushed forward, her face pale. The crowd quietened, eyes turning toward her, filled with concern. The uncertainty that crept back was like a shadow across the festival. Jake felt his heart drop as he stood there, wonder and dread colliding. What would this accident mean for their efforts? Would it change everything? The whispers of fear buzzed among them, and Jake instinctively looked over to Lila, who still hesitated, uncertainty filling her eyes. Could the drive withstand another challenge? Would their hope survive this new storm? The night felt heavier in that moment. Jake knew they had to act, but how could they navigate this? Would Lila still hold onto that hope? As the first sirens wailed in the distance, Jake swallowed hard, caught between the stirrings of anxiety and determination. "Let us go, everyone. We need to see if we can help," he urged. But would that help bring their community even closer, or would it tear them apart? The question loomed, waiting for an answer. The sirens echoed through the night, but the hope hanging in the air didn't falter. Jake felt a tug at his heart as he rallied the scattered group into action. They weren't just a collection of individuals anymore. They had become a community, a family bound by purpose. "Everyone, stay close," Jake called, the urgency threading into his voice. Emily clutched Lila's hand, gazing up at Jake with wide, determined eyes. "Let us go see what is happening." As they rushed toward the corner store, Jake couldn't shake the gravity of the situation. There was fear, yes, but also a sense of unity. People began pouring out of their homes, curiosity blending with concern. Each step forward reminded Jake of why they embarked on this journey together. When they arrived, the scene was chaotic. Firefighters battled the flames, licking at the remnants of the little corner store, and the smell of smoke clung heavily to the night air. But amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. The community began to spring into action like a tightly woven net, each individual eager to do their part. Maria was already there, directing those around her with a calm confidence that steadied the trembles of anxiety. "We need to set up a refreshment station. Let us gather supplies," she exclaimed. Coordinating volunteers, friends, and strangers alike surged toward her voice, tackling this new challenge head-on. "Jake," a familiar voice cut through the noise. He turned to see the skeptical politician approaching, her features softened by concern. It hit him then, this was an opportunity. "We're organizing a support effort for those affected. We can't let this tragedy rob our community of hope," she declared. Laying her hand on his shoulder, a rush of energy ignited within him. "We can do this. We're not just here to survive. We're here to show everyone what we're capable of." With that affirmation, Jake felt the doubts melt away. He began organizing people, pointing them toward the donations they'd been collecting. They could help now. As they set to work, Emily rallied the other kids to gather toys and books, and Lila began encouraging everyone to bring food donations, turning the vibe into a movement once more. Jake watched as laughter and determination spread irresistibly among the onlookers. Determination to rebuild and reconnect, to foster hope even amid uncertainty. With the fire extinguished and the chaos subsiding, they formed a human chain to transport food and supplies to their makeshift support station, the energy in the air lifting spirits like never before. The little community stood strong together, an unstoppable force of compassion. Hours later, as darkness drew on, they had constructed something beautiful out of the ashes. Tables laden with food, water, and essentials lined the street, while laughter filled the air as kids played amidst the worry. Families gathered, stories shared, and with each passing moment, they united even deeper. Jake found himself standing next to Emily and Lila, who watched the scene unfold, eyes alight with hope. "You did this, Jake," Lila exclaimed, her face beaming with gratitude. He smiled back at her, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes, feeling swept up in their camaraderie. "I couldn't have done it without you," Jake said, kneeling so their eyes could meet. "You all reminded me what it means to care, to truly care. We're gonna keep doing this. We'll be here for each other, always." As whispers of community support returned, the politician stepped forward and spoke. "This is what I needed to see. I'll support your food drive, and my colleagues will as well. We need more moments like this, real connections." The crowd erupted into cheers. Jake's heart surged. This wasn't just a win for their food drive. It was a declaration of unity. With every smile, every shared laugh, they reaffirmed an unbreakable bond formed through trials. As the night grew late, the initial shock from the fire faded, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. They had turned despair into action, heartbreak into hope. Jake had stepped beyond the shadows of his past, awakened to the meaning of connection and community. "Before we close tonight," he announced, his voice steady, "let us remember why we're here: to uplift each other. We are family now, and we heal together." In that moment, Jake felt complete. He had transformed, no longer just a privileged businessman but a dedicated leader, someone willing to engage with and uplift his community. Their laughter mingled with the stars above, a beautiful chorus of collective hope illuminating a path forward. "Let this be the spark for a brighter future," he thought as he locked eyes with Maria, Emily, and Lila. Together they would nurture it, ensuring no one would ever stand alone. And that's when the world felt right again, just as it should be. Now is the moment for you to join this journey. You need to subscribe now to catch every exclusive story and witness more life-changing transformations. Leave a like now to boost this inspiring message into the hearts of others who need it. Comment your feelings about this incredible ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know how critical their support is.